Could AEW star Adam Cole be ready to return soon? That's a question that everyone has on their mind, and it looks like we just got a bit of an important update courtesy of the Wrestling Observer newsletter. We're going to talk about what that update is and why we could see Adam Cole return at some point. We're also going to talk about AEW Dynamite Ratings, which had been up in recent weeks. I'm going to tell you what the rating is, why it matters, and why we have seen this increase from that horrible number just a few weeks ago. Before we get into that, though, I'm Omer Q for Real Take Wrestling. Be sure to smash that like button, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you get notified whenever a new video is released. All right, so Adam Cole has been out of in-ring action ever since late September of 2023. That is when he took an unfortunate dive off of the stage and shattered his foot. There's no other way to put it. As you can see to the right of the screen there, Adam Cole, that is when he suffered the injury during that main event match between Samoa Joe and his then friend MJF. Well, ever since then, we have heard, Adam Cole has been trying to rehab. There was at one point a reported setback in his rehab. But we now have learned, courtesy of Wrestling Observer, that Cole may be ready to return at some point soon. Here is the excerpt from Wrestling Observer newsletter this week. Regarding Adam Cole, because of the complexity of the injury, there's still a little time left out of action, but he hopes it's not much longer. He is able to walk now, so he's on the way back. And that is the extent of the update, but it's an important one because the last update that we got about Adam Cole, this injury and everything that's happened over the past 6 to 8 months for Cole have been just not great. I mean, he went from being in the main event of the biggest wrestling show ever to then just a month later on the shelf for an indeterminate amount of time. And it's been unfortunate to see because injuries have been obviously a thing that had plagued Adam Cole throughout his run in AEW. First, it was the concussion that we didn't even know whether or not he would be back. Thank God he was able to come back and have an amazing all-time run with MJF before he was injured again. But it just seems like, unfortunately, no matter what, it's just the worst luck with Adam Cole and these injuries. But it looks like he is on the right track to return at some point. Him not being able to walk was a real thing, by the way. People may scoff at that or whatever, but for a very long time, Adam Cole, walking under his own power was that was a pipe dream as far as how far away it was, because the injury was so severe. He literally shattered his foot. And for him to be at the point where, he doesn't have crutches anymore, where hopefully he can begin training soon and training that leg and that foot to be at 100%, that really is the next step in this process for him. Is if we begin to hear that, Adam Cole has been training and training hard, then we can start to really talk about timetable for a return. As far as it stands right now, though, I would not expect him to be at All In, considering what we're hearing. Would not expect him to even be ready a little bit farther than that. Could we see him before the end of the year? I would hope so. And I think that for Adam Cole's sake, that would be a good thing. And for the sake of the Undisputed Kingdom, which many people have been talking about online, that group was destined for a healthy Adam Cole. And that was meant to, I think, in many ways, prop him up and prop up its members, but it just never panned out that way. And a lot of it goes back to Cole and the injury. And it does speak, if anything, it speaks a little bit, or a lot, I should say, to how important and how big Adam Cole is. Because without him, that group is unfortunately just not as important as it would be with him. And, if he was still there and in another universe, he might have been AEW World Champion, genuinely. Because MJF was likely going to need some time off regardless. I know that the original plans were for MJF to hold the title for a little while and then eventually go to Swerve Strickland. But then obviously he tore his shoulder labrum. But there is a universe where if MJF sustains that injury, Adam Cole is healthy, that Adam Cole gets that world title run instead of Samoa Joe. So again, I think that's neither here nor there. That is speculation, but I hope that he's back soon. And the other thing to talk about with Adam Cole is like his contract. I think a lot of people like to put that 3-year number on many wrestling deals, especially AEW deals. Like after 3 years, their contract is up. And the truth of the matter is we don't know when Adam Cole's contract is up. It hasn't really been disclosed how long he signed for back in 2021. But one thing we do know that in both WWE and AEW is that when talent are injured, usually there is injury time added back to their contract. And in the case of Adam Cole, that would be a lot of injury time depending on when they count, the injury taking place, right? Because I'm not sure whether they would say, well, he was still on TV up until December or whatever, and then the time between that he wasn't on the road, that would be considered added time. But we do know when he had that concussion, he was not on TV for a long time. I would think it was from Forbidden Door all the way up until that LA show in January. So that was almost 6 months out. So even if his contract is up in later this year, as some people like to speculate that to be the case, I would think there was at least be a few 6 to a year added to that contract for injury time. That is just my educated guess on the matter. We'll see what happens, but that's, again, even speculating that it is a 3-year deal, which we've seen talent sign 5-year deals. We've seen Malachi Black, even said, he's signed away until, 2027. Like that. We don't know. We don't know what the options are. We don't know what the potential is for, them, AEW, to maybe pick up, at their own end of an option. But we'll see. I mean, if Adam Cole ever does become a free agent, I promise you that there will be many stories about that and what might happen, because I feel like if Adam Cole came into WWE in this climate, batting down the hatches, that could be a very interesting scenario. But I also think a lot of unfinished business in All Elite Wrestling as well. But we'll see what happens there, guys. Let's move on to our next topic, that being All Elite Wrestling ratings. Let's talk about the latest ratings that just came out today. Ratings are up for AEW according to PW Torch. This week's Dynamite, as you can see by this WrestleNomics graphic. Guys, go support WrestleNomics. They do some wonderful work. AEW ratings on average for Dynamite this week, 688,000. This is for the Wednesday, July 3rd edition of AEW Dynamite. You can see on the chart, this week's episode also garnered a 0.23 in the key 18 to 49 demo. This is up very slightly from the 0.22 they had last week. AEW over the past year, though, has taken a bit of a dip compared to last year. In last year, July 2023, they were averaging right around 833,000. This year, they're averaging they just hit 688,000. So obviously, the ratings have taken a dip from last year, and we'll talk about AEW and kind of where that ratings dip has kind of come from and why it should be a bit of a concern from a business standpoint. But overall, I think the rumors of the demise and destruction and collapse of AEW are greatly exaggerated, right? The bad rating that they had on Juneteenth was 500,000 and I think 8 viewers, right around 500,000 viewers. Horrible rating for AEW Dynamite. The worst rating in that Wednesday night, 8 p.m. time slot. They hit 680 last week. They've hit 688. And I think it's very, and then like the week before that horrible rating, they were like somewhere around 600 and right around that 680 mark. So needless to say, things have kind of leveled out from that bad rating. And I think we can all deduce that was just an anomalous scenario. Like it just happened, and it was not really that indicative of the product or fan interest being as down as I think people made it out to be. Many people were claiming that AEW were not going to get picked up because of this rating or blah blah blah. Reality is that this type of thing does not really affect and impact the negotiations that are basically, as Tony Khan alluded to, like out in the red zone at the 10, 20-yard line. Like, that's what he said. Like, he basically said, be ready because we are going to announce this TV deal and this media rights deal, whatever it may be, very soon. So I don't think it's going to impact that. I think both Warner Brothers Discovery, AEW kind of understand where AEW is and the value of that. So it seems like they're coming to an understanding in that respect. The other thing that we need to talk about here is I think that there obviously has been a drop in the ratings. And I think it should be concerning to AEW a bit from a business standpoint, not in that, oh my God, they're going to go out of business, but in that the formula that they had in 2021, 2022, even 2020 was one that really worked. And you combine that with the fact that AEW was a new product, a new entity that was pushing, very logical content at a time where WWE was pushing crap under Vince McMahon, then of course they are going to have a more larger and dedicated fan base than they would when WWE in turn gets new management and Triple H tells more logical stories and they change up the production, they make it feel bigger and whatnot. Like that is kind of part one of what has led to, I think, the decrease. There were probably a lot of fans who tuned into AEW because WWE wasn't good, and then over time we kind of seen maybe those people leave. Then the other part is the formula that they had was less focused on presenting, sports entertainment storylines that WWE, these melodramatic storylines that WWE usually tells. And AEW in 2023 did probably too much of that. They have definitely gotten back to what works. And I think if you go back and look at the past 4 weeks of AEW TV, this is the formula they need to be running. This is the formula that will lead to long-term success, because it is literally the playbook of AEW from 2021. You have episode-long stories that are grounded in reality that are being told throughout the entire show with your biggest stars. And you're using your biggest stars in those stories to build up new talent, lesser talent, whatever. On top of that, you have a surprise, you have a return, and you're getting your stars back. Let's not act like not having Hangman Page, Kenny Omega, Britt Baker, Jamie Hayter over the past few months has not hurt the product. It has. And the momentum shifts, with having CM Punk, not having CM Punk, having the Elite, not having the Elite. And I think that over time really did hurt the company. So I think they are finally getting into a groove where they have the formula for television that works for them. They are getting their stars back, and they are finally able to build momentum with some of their big stars. And that is what's going to lead to AEW and success down the line. And look, I said they should be concerned, and the main reason why is because if you look at the year over year for Dynamite, right? We're not even going to talk about Collision. Collision's a minus 39% from Q2 last year to Q2 this year. Again, that's a bit of I don't think a fair analysis, because what Collision was in 2023 and what it is now are very different things, and the presentation, all that kind of stuff is very different. But if you just look at Dynamite, right, for Q4 and Q1, just these past 2 quarters, they were down 10 and 11% respectively. In Q2, they were down 17%. This is according to data from WrestleNomics and Nielsen. The average, I think, for television, according to Brandon Thurston, was right around 9% as far as what the average dip for cable is, in that respect. So that is a concerning stat. That should be concerning for AEW. And because overall, the dip in cable is still less than the dip that AEW has quarter to quarter this year. And again, I'm not saying that this means AEW is going out of business. They're still going to get a massive rights increase. They're going to be profitable. by all indications, and like that's not going to change. But you would want to get to a point where your TV product is more popular than it is right now. Like this show just last year was averaging 800 something thousand viewers. 833, I believe, was the number. And months before that, they were hitting 1 million consistently. So there is room for AEW to improve things that are within their control. And I think it's not going to happen overnight. It is going to be a slow burn. They're going to have to tell good stories consistently, bring those fans back. And I think when they're back, and if AEW, again, continues what they've been doing the past few weeks has been great television. This last Dynamite, probably one of the best Dynamites I've ever seen, period. They continue to do this, give this the feel, give this the vibe. They're going to restore the feeling. And I think they're going to hopefully get higher ratings. And again, we should want all companies, WWE, AEW, to do well, because if one company does well and the other company is also doing well, they're going to push each other to be better. And hell, TNA, I want them to do well. If TNA is averaging 1 million viewers a week, again, well, I'm just going to say it, right? But if TNA would be averaging 1 million viewers a week, that'd be great. That would be great for wrestling, because that would mean you have even more parity. You have even more competition. You have even more places where talent can make legitimate money. Will they get there? We'll see. But right now, AEW on the upward trajectory for sure, especially from where they were in recent weeks. I want to hear from you guys, though. What do you guys think about this? Has AEW gotten back on track? What do they need to fix? Let me know in the comment section below. Also, if you haven't already done so, do be a big favor and smash that like button, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you get notified whenever a new video is released.